This episode of Bonn Park is brought to you by Google Waterloo. Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. As Google's Canadian engineering headquarters, Google Waterloo is a proud member of the Waterloo region and community. Thanks, Google. Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sarah Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward. In the second episode of Bonn Park's two-part series called Girls for Change, we speak with Leya Oommen, who's a grade 10 student at Waterloo Collegiate Institute, and she discusses a technovation project she partnered on with fellow student Ellen Brisley.
We also meet Maya Alkibi, who teaches grade 7 and 8 math at KW Bilingual and has a PhD in geophysics. Alkibi is a recipient of the University of Waterloo's Teaching Excellence Award in Mathematics.
Then we speak with Liz Hofer, a current grad student competing at McMaster University, and she discusses the gender gap that remains in much of science and talks about the work that still needs to be done to overcome long-standing barriers.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review,
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
share directly from the platforms.
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks!
On with the show. This is it. Leya Oommen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to talk to you. I want to find out how you and Marshall met.
I actually knew who Leya was before I met her because I would hear about her from my sister Kathy King, who was Leya's piano teacher at the tannery. Is that right, Leya?
Yeah.
And Kathy would rave about Leya. And then I did get to meet her eventually at KW Bilingual School, where I was a parent for many years and my daughters attended. And I think the first real conversation I had with Leya was at the science fair. And I was really blown away by the work she was doing. And also I was so impressed with Leya's performance in operetta. The last operetta you did, you actually were the co-star in operetta.
So we spoke to Ellen last week, and we wanted to start asking you about your app. So just to recap, you've had an experience with Technovation Girls. You've created an app. It's the cool Italian word for help. And it is connecting donors with where there's a need for relief in some way. So why don't you tell us about that experience and how you got there?
Yeah. So we started with another app called Aid. And that came to be because I have family who live in India. And about 2 years ago, there were these really horrible floods. And they were like as tall as houses, like the water was as tall as the houses, and it was really bad. And a lot of people like in the region, so it was only certain parts in the region that were affected and some parts were fine. So the people who were fine wanted to help by donating resources, but they didn't know what to do or where to send food or anything. So, and I was there at the time, so I experienced it firsthand, and it was just so chaotic and crazy. So I had done Technovation in the past, so I was planning on not doing it that year, but then I thought of this idea of, well, maybe we can fix this. And I talked to Ellen, who was in Switzerland at the time, and we started working on it, and she was like, okay, let's do it. And we started working on that, and then we went to, we went past regionals, and then we won first in North America. So that was really cool, and that's kind of how the spark started. But then this year, we thought about that app, and we were like, well, I mean, it was a good idea, but there was a lot of things that wouldn't necessarily work in an actual situation. So we kind of have made a new app, and it focuses on the donor to organization relationship more than the survivor to organization. So it really helps connect donors to the organizations that are trustable and reliable, and allows the donors to feel like they're a part of the journey by getting feedback on, and like images, text feedback on what the organizations are doing, so that they actually know where their money's going.
That's fantastic. And that's the idea of bridging that gap between we want to help, but we don't know how, or it's too complicated, to here we are in need of help. And this is exactly how and what we need.
Exactly.
Through coding.
Yeah.
So what was your experience with coding been so far?
Well, okay. So both my parents are software engineers. So one of the
things it's just happening. You guys are around the dinner table talking code, or what?
No, it's the opposite. When I was little, because I used to go to my parents' work and sit around for a bit when I was little, because whenever I didn't have school or something, and I hated it. I absolutely hated sitting around. I was like, this is so boring. Like, all they're doing is staring at their computer screens all day. But then I got involved with, and that was the last thing on my mind. I was like, that's not what I'm gonna be doing. But then I got involved with Technovation, and I realized that it's more than just staring at a screen all day. You get to learn a whole new language, and from that, I've learned a bit of JavaScript from Khan Academy, and then we've started learning Java, and now we're working on Swift. So it's really cool, because it's like learning a whole new language and knowing what is happening. And now when I look at applications on my computer, I'm like, oh, so this is what's happening. And it's really cool to think about all the back end stuff that's going on.
So everyone gets frustrated when they see an application have a bug or something that doesn't work intuitively. Are you looking at that now from the mindset of, I know how they can fix this?
Yeah.
That's great.
It's really cool, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, if they did this, then it would be fine.
Yeah.
We live in a remarkable place at a remarkable time in Waterloo region here. Did you at some point, get some sense that, wow, this is an amazing place to be for the kind of work you and Ellen want to do?
It's really cool, because we live so close to UW, where they're really doing so much with tech. And I mean, I think we're so lucky to be surrounded with so many opportunities, because we also have Communitech nearby, and we've actually reached out to them in the past. And we have the Perimeter Institute as well, which is really cool. It's not necessarily like software engineering, but it's really cool, because we have all of these things. Ellen and I, because of Technovation, have gotten to go visit Communitech and the Perimeter Institute, and just learn so much from these on how to start up a business, how tech works, and all the amazing opportunities that are just available for us. And it's just really cool.
Yeah, we have some amazing big think tanks here in Waterloo region. And when you speak of working with Ellen, talk about that collaboration a bit, how that came about, and how the two of you work together.
Yeah, so we met at KW Bilingual in grade 4, because that's when I started there. And we've been friends since then. And we started with working on Technovation in grade 7. And we had a bigger group then, but then, like I said, the next year we were not going to do it. And then we were like, okay, let's work on it. And it just sort of happened. And since then we work really well together, because we have very similar work ethics. And like, when I'm not feeling as motivated, Ellen is always there to motivate me. And like, same goes vice versa. So it works so well, because we understand each other, and we know how to listen to each other. And even if we don't necessarily have the same views on everything, we know how to talk it out and work it out. And I think part of what works so well with us is that we do have different views. So we're able to see different angles to a problem, and kind of find a bigger solution that helps with everything.
That's where the collaboration gets super beautiful. I have a question about your earliest experience with coding. So obviously it's watching your parents be boring on their computers. But at what point did coding become something that you were thinking of trying? Was it through Technovasion specifically?
So it did start with Technovasion, because that's when I like actually learned that coding can actually be interesting. And then I think it was the summer after grade 7. I like, obviously it's the summer, so you don't have school. And I was like, well, what do I do? So I kind of Googled it, and I found this mini course on Khan Academy, and it taught me JavaScript. And it was basic, like making shapes and drawings through coding. But it taught like me a lot of the basics about coding. So that's kind of where it started.
Is that unlocking piece where you go from thinking, oh, my parents are zombies in front of their computers to, wait a second, they're inside an entirely different world inside these screens every day, making things happen.
Yeah, it was really cool to kind of have that switch between, oh my God, this is so boring, and whoa, this is actually really cool.
What was the transition from grade 8 at KW Bilingual School to high school? It must be like going from a private school. It must be like stepping into a whole different world. You're in grade 10 now at WCI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you talk about that? Yeah.
Yeah. So Quib's KW Bilingual was just so great because it prepared me so well for high school. Like I was so ready for my classes. It was a breeze. Like it was very easy because I got so much knowledge, and the teachers are just so amazing at KW Bilingual. And just learning about, it's less about what you learn and more about how to learn. And KW Bilingual was really good at teaching us how to learn new things. And that really helps in high school because it made it so much easier. And I mean, currently, at least until now, I haven't had very much trouble at all in high school because that transition was just so smooth. And it was also an exposure to so many new people from different areas because in KW Bilingual, you're kind of in a bubble. And it was good. It was a great thing for the amount of time that I was there. It was amazing. And then being exposed to even more people it was really cool. It was just really amazing.
Can we talk about your Can we talk about your arts background? I know along with piano, Ellen mentioned that you do dance, and I've seen how incredibly talented you were in operetta. Can you talk about that part of your personality and I guess your academics, kind of how that comes together to help you with something like Technovation?
Yeah, so I do an Indian classical dance called Bharatanatyam. And I've been doing it ever since I was around 4 or 5 in junior kindergarten. And it's right now, I've competed like internationally and won and all of that. And it's also just such a calming place to just kind of let everything out. And it's also, you do a lot of emotions. You have to you have to be very expressive. Because you depict a lot of stories in Hindu mythology. And so it's really cool to be able to do that. And also physically, obviously, it keeps me physically, and it keeps my mind sane. And as well, it's really helped me with my memory. And that's something that I didn't think I'd ever get from something like this. But arts really, really help with memory because in school, now when I'm reading something, it just automatically goes into my head. And I realize this now, dancing, I can pick up dances really quickly because I've had so much training in it and I've had a wonderful teacher to guide me. And it's really helped me in my academics, memory-wise, keeping me sane, and just overall it's just been great.
I think there's some of that like muscle memory in art too, where I think that muscle memory plays a big role. Like there's a point, because you're a pianist also, you play piano, there's a point where you've let go and your body takes over playing the rest of the song for you, and that's kind of where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
Is there a coding moment like that?
Well, currently I'm still on the learning phase of coding. So I'm still learning it just because there's so much to learn, right? And dance has helped me with that though, because even like I said, learning new things, you have to remember what you're learning, right? That's one of the most important parts of just keeping the information. So dance has helped me remember things, and you need that in coding because you're learning a new language and you need to remember. So yeah.
And you're a mentor at Technovation, Cassie Myers. Can you speak to how that relationship works and where she helps guide you along the way?
Yeah, so Cassie has been a great asset to our team. She is amazing. She's just amazing. She's taught us so much, and even just in the last 2 or 3 months, the amount we've learned from her is it's crazy. How I never thought I could learn this much in business, because I have taken a business course before in grade 9. But on top of that, I've learned so much, and she helped us with our pilot for our app that we did in December, and just guiding us in what to do and how we can do it. She's been great and extremely helpful. For our pilot, what we did was we partnered with a local retirement home and nursing home, and we wanted to provide gifts for the holiday season, and we ended up providing gifts for around 50 residents. And how we did this was we started off by collecting information about the residents, meaning like what they wanted, or we gave them a list of around 5 items, and we got them to choose like what they preferred. And then we set up a website and put in all the information, and then we got donors to come onto our app, fill out kind of a Google form about what they wanted to donate. And then after we got all the donations, we wrapped all the presents up, and then we sent them to the organizations, and they were extremely happy. And we felt so like it was so heartwarming, because they were so grateful. And it was because for some of them, we afterwards we learned that it was the only Christmas present that they were even getting during the holiday season. And it was really emotional to kind of be able to actually help people and know that what we're doing is actually helping people, and it's not just an app, it's actually helping people. And it was really amazing to know that it was actually working.
So as well as that being fulfilling and rewarding, what did you guys learn from that experience?
Yeah, so afterwards we've done interviews with the organizations, and by organizations I mean the nursing home and the retirement home, and then we've also sent out surveys to the donors, and what we're doing with that information is we're finding out what components we can use from this pilot and fit them into our app, and what was kind of the most important things for the donors, so that we can make sure to incorporate those, and make the experience as easy and kind of rewarding for the donors, and make it easy for the organizations, so that we're not kind of putting extra work, we're not overloading them with work, we're making the process easier. So that's what we're doing with the information.
And when you approach something like a retirement home, which is a pretty big business, it can be difficult finding the right person to talk to sometimes. And the websites aren't always all that welcoming, in terms of, oh, here's the people, here's the emails. So where do you start, and how do you kind of get through that door to the point where you can say, hey, this is what we'd like to do, and would you like to partner and help us here?
Yeah, so first we started off by actually kind of having a few attributes for what our ideal partnership would be like, which is it's more of kind of size, like how many people we would want to include in it, because if we have too much work, it's obviously not going to be very easy to do, especially since there's only two of us. So we wanted to make it small scale, and then we wanted to make sure that the organizations were okay because of COVID protocols and all of that. So first we did that, and then we found emails on the website first, and we reached out to those. And then when those didn't work, we found out that knowing people is actually, it's a great asset to kind of, connections are very important in a business. So how we got the nursing home is because I knew someone who works for a different care facility, and we talked to him, and we told him what we were doing and if he knew anyone, and he connected us to the nursing home. And Ellen knew someone from the retirement home. So we just found out that connections are extremely important when you're kind of trying to operate a business. Even if it's for like nonprofit, it's extremely important.
Two teachers I think of who, from my vantage point, seem pretty instrumental in your success and Ellen's success at KDB Bilingual School are Mrs. Scotchmer, who taught grade 7 and 8 English, and Madame El-Kibi, who taught grade 7 and 8 science and math. Can you speak about both those teachers?
Oh, yeah. So I'll start with Miss Scotchmer. Miss Scotchmer has made me like English because, English was always okay for me. I didn't ever not like it, but she really helped me build a lot of my communication skills, whether that's through writing or speaking. They're all very important just in life, not just for Technovation or not just for school, but in life. Communication is that's how you put yourself out to the world, and that's extremely important. So Miss Scotchmer has definitely played a role in who I am today. And then Madame El-Kibi, she is the reason I like science. She's the reason. Because before grade 7, I know that I was not a science person. I was no, not science. That's not my thing. No. But after grade 7, it was just a huge step. I don't know how to put this into words, but it was just, Madame El-Kibi is the reason I like science so much. And now it's my favorite. It's my favorite subject in school. It's my favorite thing to do outside of school even. And Technovation is science, right? Because it's computer science. And Madame El-Kibi, she also introduced us to Technovation, which is huge because we would not be here if it weren't for Technovation. And Madame El-Kibi is the one who introduced us to that. So she really played a vital role in where we are today.
You also had a great role model in the area of computer science with having a mom as a coder, right? And we spoke briefly before we started recording about there's a gender gap in the engineering and especially in the computer world, software engineering, computer science. There's a gender gap there. Do you see yourself being a mentor for something like Technovation when you're grown up, out of university, in your future?
Oh my gosh, totally. I would, after I'm done with, when I'm not doing Technovation myself, I think it would be amazing to hand over this experience that I've had to other people, especially girls trying to get into tech. I think it's very important that we kind of close the gender gap. And I would love to, because I think I have gained quite a bit of experience from Technovation. And I know that I'm going to continue learning to code, even not just for Technovation, but outside, because I think it's really cool and really fun. So, and then I also do business at school, and I do DECA. So I think it would be really cool to come back and be a part of Technovation as a mentor. I think that would be really cool.
So my name is Maya Alkibi, and I teach math and science at the KW Bilingual School. So I taught Leya and Ellen for a couple of years in grade 7 and 8. And I was also their first Lego League coach for a couple of years as well.
Thank you so much for joining us, Maya. We wanted to talk about Leya and Ellen's experience at KW Bilingual School, but also you just mentioned the Lego League. And what exactly does that mean? I'm sure some of our listeners don't know what this is.
So a lot of people think of the first Lego League program as a program that involves students just playing with Lego blocks and building things, but it's so much more than that. Both Leya and Ellen worked with the Lego League students for a couple of years, and they were able to do research, to design a robot, to do missions, and to demonstrate the core values that the whole Lego League program is about. So basically, every year, what the students do is that they gather together in a group, in a team, and they work around a topic that the first Lego League program offers for that year. And that topic can be, for instance, providing clean water to different parts of the world and different populations. It can be city shapers, like the one that we did a couple of years ago. It can also be something about space and how people or how astronauts, what are the problems that astronauts can face in space and how can the children help with that. So the program has 4 parts. The first part is a research project out of which they have to build a solution to help either a population or the astronauts. A second part of the program involves designing a robot, and this robot will have to fulfill some mission during the game. And so the design would be a part of the program, and the game itself or the mission would be another part. And the fourth part of the program is the demonstration of the core values, which means that the team has to have a good chemistry. They should the members or the players have to respect each other, and most of all, have fun while doing all of that.
And when it comes to Technovation, Leya and Ellen really credited you for introducing them to Technovation. When did that come on your radar, and in terms of you introducing students to Technovation?
So just like with First Lego League, I love STEM-based activities. And for those who are not familiar with the acronym, STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So it's an integration of all of these domains in order to produce something meaningful and a solution that would help somebody in the community or a group in the community. Technovation, just like First Lego League, is basically getting students to think of a problem and to find a solution by creating an app. So with First Lego League, they actually built the solution. But with Technovation, it's the same idea, but it's an app that would solve the problem. And it's one of these programs that empower girls, because girls are still very underrepresented in STEM. A lot of females are going to do degrees that are STEM related in engineering and biotechnology and all that kind of stuff. But when we look at the job market, we see that females are still underrepresented. So anytime that I find something that is related to STEM and that empower girls and encourages them to join programs like that, I'm all for it. So we started, it started with a little conversation in class and this ad that I got about Technovation, and I just put it on Google Classroom for the kids to see, and many of them were so interested, and Ellen and Leya were so interested and they wanted to be part of it. I remember that when they first started the project, Leya and Ellen, Ellen was not in Canada at this time. She was abroad with her parents. So Leya had a hard time choosing a topic, and there were different topics that we were discussing in class with different groups. But I could tell that Leya really wanted a topic that would make like a problem whose solution would make a difference in the lives of people. And she was talking to Ellen online, and they were discussing different topics and different subjects. And I remember after school, I'll be outside, and they will come to me and we'll talk about these different topics, and we'll just have these amazing conversations and different solutions, and what the best solution could be, and how they would do it, and how would they actually make it concrete with a program that would be helpful.
Very interested in this concept that I think it was Ellen who brought it up in her segment. I'm very interested in this concept that Ellen mentioned that is about the opportunity at KW Bilingual School to work on big projects and sink your teeth into these enormous projects with moving parts that last months and months, and how that gave them sort of the tools to move forward and think they could take on something like an app or take on something like this competition. What do you think about that angle of these larger projects?
These larger projects are the real world. There are so many different angles to a project, and if you only tackle it with one perspective, you're never going to see the big picture. There's a human side to it. There's a social side to it. There's an engineering solution that you have to build with all of the problems that you're going to run into. So this troubleshooting requires perseverance, and both Ellen and Leya are so committed. I would just see them looking at each other, and ideas just shining through their eyes, and they would come and troubleshoot and ask oh my goodness, the questions that these kids ask, they're hard. Sometimes I have to say, okay, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to think about it. I'm going to do a bit of research, and I'll come back to them and offer some advice, some guidance. But these two girls, they would go and independently try to find some answers, and even harder questions for me.
I think that is a beautiful example of a grown-up that you can count on, right? So when a kid is approaching a grown-up with a question, and the grown-up says, you know what? I don't know the answer to this, but I will go research and come back to you with like a formed opinion on this. That alone is teaching these kids, like, it's okay if you don't know, but you can go and find it and regroup later and see what those findings will do for your project.
Absolutely, because the projects that they've been working on, whether it's Technovation or whether it's First Legally, these are real problems, and they know, and they've realized, talking to different experts that we have invited, that a lot of time we don't have the solution. However, as a team, we discuss the possible ways that we can, the possible solution that we could apply. Some of them will work, some of them won't work. But what's important is that they document that, so that when future teams come and look at their solutions, they know where they started, and they know how they got there, and how they can make it better, what works, what doesn't work. So this documentation is also a very important part of the process.
You must be continually kind of inspired by these students that bring you these ideas. It must be a huge part of the reward of teaching. When we were talking to Leya, she talked about how it was actually your science class that awakened her love for science. And I know also that's the case with some students when it comes to your math class. Can you talk about that?
Oh, it's it's just saying that, first of all, makes me so emotional. It's teaching is a connection between the teacher and the kids, and I don't know, it's just so weird, just looking at the faces of these kids and see them smile when they get something. That means the world to me. I see a lot of them first maybe not liking math, or nobody doesn't like math. Math is life. It's part of our everyday. It makes our life easy if we understand it. And a lot of time it just intimidates us because we haven't understood it yet. But I believe that everybody can understand math. Everybody can excel at it. What's important is the tools that these kids can acquire in order to get there. And everybody can get there, every single person. So for me, just seeing that smile on their face, that's my reward at the end of the day.
My name is Liz Hofer. I'm a grad student at McMaster University. I also did my undergrad at McMaster in mechatronics engineering. And throughout my time at McMaster, I was really involved with the Women in Engineering Society and with our program called Venture that gets youth involved in technology and STEM.
What is mechatronics?
So it's the newest engineering program at McMaster, I think, and it's kind of a newer field in general. But it's mainly, like for McMaster, it's in the same department as software engineering. And the way I think of it is like software engineering, but for maybe like embedded systems. We also take a lot of mechanical classes and electrical classes. So it is kind of a nice mix between like software, electrical, and mechanical, but also how to use all those things together, not just like them separately, but how they all come together. For like robotics is a big application, or like factory automation is a big application.
And I would assume like AI stuff, like that's something that really plays into that.
Yeah, exactly. In our upper years, there's courses in AI, and that's kind of what my thesis and grad work is related to.
Liz, can you tell us a bit about the gender gap when it comes to engineering and some of the things you've observed in the time that you've been working?
When I was a younger girl, I did well in school and I liked science and math. I wasn't really exposed to engineering, and I didn't really know what engineering was or if I wanted to do it until like my grade 12 year of high school, where I kind of chose it as default. Just out of all the options, it was like I was like, I like math and science and physics, and I'm good at these things, so I'm going to see what engineering is all about. But I didn't know what it was until I got there. And yeah, like at my time at Mac, like we do have like the gender ratio skews more towards male, and depending on what program you're in, it could skew more. So in mechatronics, I think in my year there's about 70 students, and 7 of us were women.
And why do you think that is? I have certain ideas about why arts degrees, especially visual arts and music and cultural studies, tends to bring in more women than men. But what are your ideas about that and why that may be?
Honestly, like I've had some theories over the years, and like they're all like anecdotal evidence, I guess. But my friends and I discuss it. I think part of the reason is exposure to it. We like society tends to push like hobbies on boys, like playing with Lego, you buy a child Lego, or if you're buying a present for your like niece or nephew or other like relative, are you more likely to buy that child Lego if they're a boy and like a doll if they're a girl? And there's nothing wrong, like I don't like gendering toys, but I really think like society exposes people to those gender norms so young. So it starts at that young age. They have Lego. And then like in science or math class, they're more interested in the topic because they're like, oh, this is like playing with Lego. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? And as they go forward, they, get involved with things in high school, like first robotics, just because it's like another extension of their hobbies. It's an actual extension. But if we never expose like really young children to the ideas of building and designing, then they'll never continue to take steps in that direction. So that's it from a younger age. But I also have a theory where like STEM is really, it's not like competitive. It's just really like it's hard. It is competitive, and like I don't even see myself as a competitive person. I just like learning about it. So I continue to make time and effort to learn it because I enjoy it. But maybe it could be said that if you're really competitive and you want to do the best at it, then you're more likely to choose STEM, and not because you find it more interesting than any other topic, but because it's like got that kind of reputation for being difficult and challenging.
Here in Waterloo region, some of the young female students have access to, again, Technovation, the program, as well as the Go ENG Girl.
Yeah.
Though you've been at McMaster, have you seen these kind of things that are happening here in Waterloo? And do you have something similar when you were at McMaster?
Yeah, so I think Go ENG Girl, we have a program like that at McMaster. And if I remember correctly, it's run by a parent company called Actua, and they branch out to all the universities. So it's like the parent company, but each university has like similar things. So that's what I was involved. That's when I worked for Venture. So that Venture was a summer camp at McMaster University, a STEM-based summer camp, and we ran a specific program that was just for girls. I didn't work for that program. I worked for another one. I worked for a computer and science one that was like mixed genders, all genders. But I remember like we always had low like girls enrollment in that program, and you know, it's like it was kind of controversial because we were trying to be like, people might argue like, why would you separate the girls and have their own like specific STEM camp? Like, why can't they just do the same STEM camp as like the boys? But I honestly think it was really valuable because, you know, especially at that age, like I would have been intimidated. Honestly, I'm still intimidated sometimes. Like I always assume that everyone else knows more than me and I'm coming in with the least amount of background information. But especially like when I was like so young, like in grade 6, 7, and 8, like I was so young back then, I would have been terrified to go to a computer camp because I thought I didn't know anything about computers. Or science or technology. So it is really nice to be like surrounded by other girls, you know? And then I feel like the energy is a little bit different there. And it's unfortunate to say, like, I'd love to say we live in a society where, you know, gender doesn't matter to the point where we don't need to have different programs for girls just because they feel like they won't be comfortable in the normal program. But I don't think we're there yet. Maybe one day we will be.
So the guests of our show of this 2-part series we're doing with Ellen Brisley and Leya Oommen, who are both grade 10 students in high school, they both spoke about how music and art and singing and dance are all components that they build on with all their engineering skills and everything they're learning in that way. Is that what you found as well, that those other parts of your life were a big help in your studies?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Pisces, so I daydream a lot. And like in school classes, I daydream about dance. And then when I'm in dance class, I like daydream about the math and physics of the dance that we're doing, which means I'm never really paying attention in either. But it always works out for me, you know. Usually it works out for me. No, but it is true. Like I make, you know, learning STEM is all about making connections. Like obviously you can't memorize what's going on unless you understand it. And the best way to understand something is just to relate it to something you already understand, you know, draw some parallels. And then you'll remember it. You'll never have to forget it. And I think dance for me was like a great way to make connections. But if you study music, it's also great. And actually, as a funny anecdote, at McMaster, we have this great thing called the McMaster Engineering Musical. And it's a completely like they write all the music themselves. I don't know what it's called when you write the score. They compose, they write all the lines. It's a complete like a combination art project between all of the engineering students, and it's a really good show. So when we talk about work-life balance, I think, you know, for a long time there was only one adult in a household working and one person tending to the home. And then we saw a shift to seeing, you know, 2 parents generally. There's like lots of different kinds of families, but generally 2 adults working per family. But what like never really got addressed was the domestic labor. And just because it's not paid labor, the domestic labor is still important. That needs like a point, that thing that needs to get done. Children need to be taken care of if you have children. Like food needs to be made, people need to be kept healthy, things need to be cleaned. And that's not like something that kind of needs to be done. That's essential for survival. It's probably more essential than going out and working a job. In general, like families, you know, we can talk about women going into STEM and having those careers, but if we're not talking about like how household labor is getting done, like in general, whether it's being split between the 2 adults, or like maybe, if in general society now has 2 working parents per household, so we're doing more labor, then why are we working the same amount of hours as we were working when there's only one parent providing an income? And so honestly, if we want to see like more women get involved in STEM, then I truly think we need to see a reduced work week, reduced expectations. So both parents can spend time with their family, get all that domestic labor done, and not be completely overwhelmed by their life.
This is Cassie Myers. I'm so happy that I get to work alongside the IUDO team, and there are a few ways that you can get involved and support their work. First is by giving them a follow on Instagram at IUDO Solutions, AIUTO Solutions, and then going to their website at iudosolutions.com and signing up for their newsletter. We welcome any and all community members, and especially folks working in the nonprofit space.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.